Hey everyone, welcome back to Bros and Shows. I am your host, Josiah, aka Mauler67, and with me, as always, I got my buddy, I got my pal, I got my brother Austin. Austin, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good too. I cannot complain.
Hmm.
I'm a little tired because I accidentally fell asleep. I laid down on my bed and I was like, oh, it's kind of cold in my room. It feels nice. I'm gonna lay on my bed. Alarm
Oh,
goes
man.
off at 7:55. It's just like, hey, bye, bros and shows time. I was like, oh no. So I quickly jumped on, scrambled, and got everything together for us to. You were, of course, waiting for me. So, it was beautiful, beautiful days like that. So, I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. It's just one of those things that sometimes when I get off of work, I'm just tired because I stay up way past when I should, or I go to sleep whenever I get home, and then I'll be up for a couple hours after then, and then I'll be tired tomorrow, and then I'll do it all over again. Naps, man, it's great, beautiful.
Oh, man.
Hey man, what can you do, Austin? How's your week, man? Hey man.
Man. So I came out and visited you over the
It's too
weekend.
bad, yeah.
And we went and saw the new David Harbour movie, Violent Night,
Yeah, we did.
which we all had a lot of fun watching that movie, and I highly recommend it. If not for little ones, but for like adults.
Definitely not for little ones. So don't watch for little
There's
ones.
murder.
It's definitely meant for millennials, I feel, because
Yeah.
it had the nostalgia of like Home Alone-esque with like the old kind of gory slapstick humor that a lot of people enjoy. I think the other thing I will say about it is it gets my seal of approval just because it was the first show or movie I've seen in the last 3-4 years, like pre-pandemic, that actually made me like cheer out loud in the movie theater. Like I've just been so sober in the movie theaters where I'm just like, I'm just gonna watch it, and that legitimately made me go like, yeah, whenever one of those scenes happened. So
yeah,
I gotta give
I
a points
really
to that.
appreciate that. I really appreciate that film, and I love that director. He made Dead Snow and Dead Snow 2, which are like one of my favorite. Like at the hype of like the Nazi zombie thing that was going on because of Call of Duty, and then like everyone jumped on that train. That movie to me, when I was like, I don't want to watch this, it's kind of like I've seen like all these other ones, and they're terrible. But then I watched this. I watched Dead Snow 1, and I was like, wow, this is a really cool concept how they do Nazi zombies. And then they did number 2, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to watch that. So when I found out that he was doing Violent Night, and David Harbour was in it, I was like, yes, I have to totally watch this. And I greatly appreciate that movie. I had so much fun with you and Todd watching that film. I also got to see my buddy Seth and his little child and Aaron. That was pretty cool. And then I had to be back before then because a lot of the people that I work with, like my coworkers, have come down with COVID or influenza or the flu. So they've asked me to pick up hours. And at that time, like if you pick up hours on like a weekend, it's like $2 more an hour that you get paid to do. So like I was like, yeah, I'll do that. Well, I forgot that I already accepted hours on Monday. So I went in at 5 p.m. Sunday and I got off at 7 p.m. Tuesday. So yeah, it was rough, and like I could not sleep. I watched so much Community because like that's just the show that I put on in the back just to like, kind of get it. And then like I get to start just watching it, and then I realized it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I gotta get to bed because like I gotta be up at 6 to wake this guy up for his job, and then I have to go to the other place that I work. So yeah, for the last 2 overnights I did on Sunday and Monday, I was watching Community, and I actually started Community, and I got all the way to season 5. Actually, I just finished Pierce's funeral thing, which is my favorite episode of Community of all time. But Yeah, it was a lot of work. I've been going through a lot. A lot of people don't know this, but my wife is pregnant, and you have to deal with all the pregnancy stuff, like the weird cravings, the mood swings, the hey, I'm not feeling so good type deal. It's just part of that, but we're excited for that. So yeah, but yeah, how was so? Your whole I really envy you with taking naps right now, because
Yeah,
I
well,
haven't really slept really good lately because of I can't really sleep in anyone else's bed or couch like I used to. It's just I can't do it. I don't know why.
and then meanwhile me, I will fall asleep in a car.
Yeah, see, I can't do that either.
It's all good, whatever. I do have to trust the driver a lot whenever that happens, but whatever. It's just another Wednesday night. Speaking of Wednesday, Austin,
That's why we're actually doing it on Wednesday, because it's fun. Guys.
We made a joke, and it's like, hey, Austin said like, hey, I have to work, so I won't be able to do Monday night. I'm like, yo, you want to just do it Wednesday since we're watching Wednesday? And he's like, haha, sure. And so that's what we're doing today. It's a normal Wednesday night for Shia LaBeouf. Austin, this week we watched Wednesday on Netflix, and it was a show that I did not know about whatsoever until a trailer, the like trailer popped up where it's her and the Thing talking, or having a little like the first time you see the thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, interesting. I'll give it a watch and everything of that sort. So I did. Austin, what'd you think of Wednesday?
So I kind of knew about this project for a while now because me being in the community of horror, like and liking horror films and stuff like that, a lot of people are huge fans of Addams Family. And I found out about this because one of the biggest directors of our time decided to be part of this production. He's an exclusive producer, and they brought in one of my favorite composers of all time to do the score for the show. So I was like, I have to watch the show. So when it dropped, I already started watching it. And then you said, hey, we should watch Wednesday. And I was like, oh, well, good thing that I've already watched it, but I'll watch it again because I'm that way. But me, So there's a couple things I will say about Wednesday. Is it a good show? Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed this show. I enjoyed the lore for it. I liked a lot of the scenes, and I thought they were really well done. And before I get off topic with that, the person I'm talking about, the director of our time, was Tim Burton, is an exclusive producer for the show.
Okay.
And Danny Elfman is one of the best composers of all time. Danny Elfman, everyone knows from Nightmare Before Christmas. He did like all the music for that, and then he did the theme song for Tales from the Crypt and a lot of the music from Tales from the Crypt. So Danny Elfman's, and he's done so many other scores that I can't, get into. I know he did like a couple episodes of The Simpsons, like Treehouse of Horrors episodes. But this show I really thoroughly enjoyed. There is a problem I have with this show, and that is which we'll talk about in the podcast. But it is which we're doing later on in the podcast. We'll talk about it. But the thing is, it's like I enjoy the show. I'm gonna give it a solid like 8 out of 10, maybe a 9. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought they did really well. There's some things that I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But overall, would I watch it again? Yes, 100%. I would watch this again. It was fun. It was entertaining. I could watch it with people that are not usually into stuff like that, because I'm going to be real with you guys. Like, if you decide to watch this, there is gore, like there is violence in this show. But if you've watched Addams Family, that's kind of been like that. But the 90s movies were kind of campy anyways. But yeah, so I liked it. What did you think of Wednesday's little adventures?
Well, I really thought Wednesday. Okay, so I did like Wednesday. I can't wait for my Nevermore letter. so I can go and ride on broomsticks.
There
I'm
it
more
is.
interested. I'm more interested in Nevermore than like Hogwarts by far, and that's just
Yeah.
personally, because like growing up, like Harry Potter was interesting and cool and whatnot. The whole concept of like a school of whatever it is, witches, wizards,
Outcasts, yeah.
outcasts, whatever it was, always I wanted to do it. That's one of the reasons why I really liked like the Fable series growing up. It's
Mhm.
because you begin the game as like heroes from this school, and that is in the show. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. The thing that makes me what I enjoyed the most about the show and why I personally like the show, and I don't want to do like the whole 8 out of 10 type deal thing that you do, but why I think it's a good watch is just I'm a big fan of like detective mysteries and novels and whatnot.
Mhm.
And there's the overarching theme of her with her typewriter writing her own kind of like detective story. Meanwhile,
Mhm.
she is being a detective in the show, and I really enjoyed that. Just because it allows the whole context of like who done it, who doing it, and who's the problem and who's the faulty character and whatnot. And so I liked it, I enjoyed it, and I would recommend people to like, especially like people who wouldn't naturally like this type of stuff or would just, I know there was a lot of people who were turned off by what's his face playing the dad. I thought he did
Luis.
great. Yeah.
Luis Grossman.
Yeah, I thought everyone in the show did a really good job. Like I felt like a lot of them kind of like fit the world and atmosphere. And we can go into more detail about that here soon.
Mhm.
But yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was one of the shows that I actually preemptively started watching because I saw it was out and got 1 or 2 episodes in, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to like the show. That's a solid thing. So let's dive into the show itself. You said you had a singular issue, and I guess I must have accidentally jumped into it.
Well, I have two
what-
issues.
What's your what let's break it down. What's your like
So-
and dislike, man?
So one of the dislikes that I really did not like is the whole. It felt like Hogwarts. It felt like Harry Potter.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that was an issue for you.
Yeah, because the thing was like nothing against it, but like it's recycled a lot. After Harry Potter, a lot of things got recycled like that. Like X-Men was like that. What was it? X-Men First Class and those that was kind of recycled of it. But yeah,
I mean, they kind of came
but-
first.
Yeah, well, yeah, they came first, but those movies were right after Harry Potter, and they kind of like picked up on the whole like Xavier School thing and like their outcasts and stuff like that. And I'm okay with that. But to me, it felt really Harry Potter-ish, especially the part where they do like the canoe racing.
Mhm.
It reminded me of the games that they play in which Harry Potter was that?
I'm talking about Goblet of Fire?
Yeah, it was Goblin of Fire. It reminded me so much of Goblin of Fire.
Triwizard Tournament, yeah.
Yeah. So like
I mean,
I was like,
I will say this. No, not at all. Like I disagree with that right there, because the
Oh, I know
Triwizard
you
Tournament
would.
was between like one of the main houses all around the place.
hmm.
But I would connect that whole episode with the whole like canoe and the cup or whatever to more of like a homage to the Adam Family one where her and Bugsley goes to the camp or whatever it was. Like I forget what it is.
Family
Like that,
Matters.
that's-
Yeah,
that's
Family
what-
Matters.
that's
Or
what I
values.
felt like it was more of. I was like, okay, this is like a kind of a nod. Because here's the thing, I felt like a lot of the stuff in the show was homages to stuff
Mhm.
without it actually being just straight 1-to-1.
Now there was something that I pointed out. Like the other thing I pointed out was like the cast that they took
Mhm.
from the show, in which there's an all-star cast in the show.
Hey,
but
there's a
the
surprising
Person that I
people.
want to talk about is Kristen Reich. She's the original Wednesday from like the from the movie.
Okay.
The girl that plays Marilyn, the girl that's actually the villain with the red hair. She is the original Wednesday from the movies. So I knew that right away. I was like, hey, she looks familiar. So I had to look it up and I was like, oh, it's her. Of course it is. That's why she looks familiar. She was the original Wednesday. So I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But the second thing I had a problem with
Okay.
is I thought the ending was a little bit too predictable, because I actually, when I first started watching through this, I actually predicted the ending, like the villains, because like I was like, well, Wednesday is starting to like this guy that's kind of a normie. He doesn't really have any ties to anyone, and like people really don't know him, and he doesn't care about like that. So I'm like, he's got to be like something different, because like they do that thing where like someone falls in love with their murderer or their killer, and they find out. Like there's a show called You, which is about a murderer that like is like stalking this girl the whole time.
Yeah.
And so she ends up falling in love with him, and you're like, yep, that's and that's how they did that in the show. Like I knew she was gonna fall for him, and then he was gonna be the villain. And kind of like there was like some foreshadowing on that, like how the dad responded to things, and like he was okay with like him dating Wednesday in a way, like for a couple times. So it's like something's going on there.
See, here's the thing, right? And I'll say my kind of thought process. I did think that this show had a very obvious like plot points and books and whatnot. Because like I came from the get-go, like the normie teacher or the person who played the original Wednesdays from the show. I instantly went like, she's that guy.
Yep.
The fact that they point out to say that she's the first normie teacher there, I'm like, that's
she's the outcast of the outcast shit.
And like the whole like the thing that actually got me surprised, actually not really surprised, but like I'm like, okay, they didn't do exactly what I thought they would do. Whenever you see the jackal and you see like the big bubbly eyes, I thought that was definitely reference to that character, because she has those big glasses. It kind of makes her eyes kind of stand out, and I thought that was supposed to be like a reference, like a one-to-one telling and showing. But they instead make that kid be it. And I'm kind of like, okay, like that's fine. The whole concept, I don't like teenage love circles or triangles or whatever you want to call it. I've always had issues with that. It's one of the reasons why I had a hard time watching Korra when I did, like Legend of Korra, because the basically a lot. There's a good portion of that show, I think season 1, 2, and 3, where Korra kind of has to deal with the love triangle between like her and the one firebender and the one and his brother, as well as like other people, about like who likes who doesn't like who has destroyed this other person's life because they're a horrible person, blah blah blah. Stuff like that I get kind of like checked out on. But the Wednesday one was a little more enjoyable for me, because the main character, the one who was supposed to be part of it, was not interested in them, and kind of like dissociated with the whole like dating and all that stuff. So it was funny to see these like guys trying to woo Wednesday, and it's like, you're stone face zombie, like you don't show any emotions. And then it's like, when you see her show emotions in this show, I actually thought like the Wednesday showed more emotion than I thought she would. How they portrayed her in the trailer and in a lot of the episodes, just emotionless. But like they did here with the trailer with Fester. Like when she first sees Fester, she legitly smiles. She's excited. And then they also show when her pet scorpion dies. Like her crying and everything, that sort, and she's like, I stopped after that point. She does show emotion in the show. It's just very few, far and in between. And it was just enjoyable to see where she actually found her enjoyment, where she actually finds her interests. And it's not in the cliche girl who's kind of like self-sufficient outcast finding the true love type of thing. It's like, that's not it. Like, she still has that thing where the guy kind of like falls for her, but it's not her opening up to him or like changing how she acts. It's him changing how he perceives what a relationship looks like by the end of it. Like, even whenever she like walks out and it's like, you left me your number, it's like, yeah, it's like presumptuous of you, and she just leaves. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I see it. Like whoever Wednesday gets with, it will probably be someone who just falls for her hand and knees and is willing to do anything and just deal with her, you know? Because I think that's kind of what happened in the one movies back in the day. Like there was the one kid, played by the dude from Santa Claus. I think was the guy, the elf Bernard. that's how I know his name. We also saw him in Buster Scruggs, like he's in Buster Scruggs. He kind of like just waited on her hands and feet, much like how Gomez does with Morticia, even if she doesn't want to admit that she's like her. So yeah, that was just my like ramblings from my brains, right? Real quickly. So I'm just glad that the show didn't try and make it some teenage drama where I had to just deal with her being like, oh, I like him, but you know, he's a normie, and I like him, but oh no, he'd possibly kill her. You know, it's a lot of that stuff, but we didn't have to, luckily enough, didn't have to deal with that and got more of a Outcast doing her own thing versus the world trying to get her to change.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then you know, some of the cast that I wanted to talk about was you know, of course, Gwendolyn Christie.
Gwendolyn Christie. Did not expect her. I didn't know she was in this.
Oh yeah, she had. I knew she was in this because when she joined the Sandman cast, she signed up to 3 more Netflix series.
See,
and Wednesday was one of them.
I thought that because whenever I saw her on the show, I was like, ooh, pleasant surprise. I'm always down for Gwendolyn Christie. And I was like, she must have done this around the same time as
one of her Game of Thrones cast members actually is in the show too. He plays a small role, but that is Murray MacArthur. You know him as Torwin from Game of Thrones. I think that's his name. The red beard guy, yeah, like Torwin. Yeah. He actually plays the old guy that's in like the old townhouse that gets murdered with the photo camera. That's him.
That's great.
That
that explains why he's hovering around the store and tries to get pictures.
And then Ricky Lindholm. She is from a comedy duo that I love called something in Oats. It's not Garfunkel and Oates.
Oh, that's that's Garfunkel and Oates.
Is it Garfunkel and Oates?
Yeah, she's the
blonde. Okay, it's Garfunkel and Oates. I always get that mixed up with the real music duo. Which is Hall and Oates, and then Garfunkel and Simon and Garfunkel. Okay, so it is Garfunkel.
Hall and Oates, yeah.
Yeah,
so they made me laugh. That was okay. So, honest truth thing, when she came on screen, I instantly went, "You look super familiar. I've seen her before. How do I know her?" And I could not figure out who she was. So when you said her name and I clicked on it, I instantly went like, "Oh yeah, that's who she was."
That and one other person is Fred Armisen. He played Uncle Fester. He was in a show. He's everywhere. But the show I remember him from is Last Man on Earth with Will Forte. Will Fortnett. It's Will Forte. Fortnett is a different person. But yeah, like, but I will say I really didn't care for him as Uncle Fester, but it wasn't like to a point where I was like, I really hate this. It's more of like, I love Christopher Lloyd's, what's it called? Like rendition of Uncle Fester because it's Christopher Lloyd. But I had to like let that go because it's like, well, Christopher Lloyd was just pretty much playing himself. Yeah. You know, so but yeah.
The only issue I had with Uncle Fester, and I enjoyed his character, like him actually being part of the show, how he kind of worked and how he was there to support. And then once he kind of did his deed, he got kind of thrown off the side. It didn't become a Wednesday and Fester versus whatever.
Yeah.
My only issue I had with him is he felt like he was doing a voice when he was talking, and it felt weird to me for that reason. Everyone else felt like they were doing their normal voice. He felt like someone who like showed up on set. He's just like, I gotta do a voice. And it's like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. Like, I don't think you need to. Forced. I think him as a character is kooky enough. You don't have to do a voice to it. Again, that could just be my opinion, and other people may be like, nah, his Fester has always had this style or whatever. Like I'm not a Adam Family connoisseur to be able to sit here and say like Fester canonically has a very deep voice. Like, how dare you? I just don't know.
Catherine Zeta-Jones was in this too. She played Morticia. Catherine
I don't know
Zeta-Jones.
where she's from. I've heard that name before.
Mask of Zorro. Mask of Zorro, like all the Zorro movies with
yes, I never watched them.
She is the lady, the hottie.
Oh.
So, and then Elise Grossman, we already know him. You know, Community.
Oh yeah, man.
Waiting, a whole bunch of stuff.
I always laugh because as I was watching this show, I'm like, I always liked him. I always liked him. And then my brain's like, what's the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about him? I'm like, freaking Batman. That's all that comes to my mind. The Bat. Waiting.
Oh,
Batwing?
the
Yeah.
Batwing.
Yeah, that's always what comes to my mind. I'm just like, why? He's a
That
good actor.
stupid
Why does
movie.
that come to my mind? Because I was a
That's how I
stupid
feel with
teenager
Justin
when that came
Long.
out.
Like when I see Justin Long, I think of Waiting. I don't think of any other really movie.
I
except
think
for
of Galaxy
Tusk.
Quest.
You know, you think of Galaxy Quest. I
Mhm.
think of Waiting. So, yeah. But yeah, this show, there was a couple times where like things were very predictable, and I can see that stuff as long as it doesn't ruin the show. And I think the show does really well with one concept. And you actually hit on it like just a little bit ago, is it didn't turn into like Wednesday and someone else.
Yeah.
It was more focused on Wednesday. Like we had the Thing, it came around, but it didn't take over where it was like this Thing and Wednesday thing. It was more of like we always focused on Wednesday. Because I was like really, when Fester showed up, I was like, oh, let's not make this like a Fester and Wednesday, like, and then when he left, it was fine. Or like the whole Addams family, Pugsley was like the person that didn't get as much screen time as everyone else, but
I'm
I think they
okay
did
with
really
that
well
because
with
my understanding of Bugley is that he's a pushover, so it makes sense for him
Yeah.
to be a pushover on the silver
Yeah.
screen. Like that's just how it is.
Mhm.
The one thing I will say, the Thing, right, as a character, I felt like there was a missed opportunity in this season. Because hear me out, right? We have this character, we have this villain who's going around collecting body parts to resurrect this person. They had an opportunity to do two things. One, hint at an idea of where Thing came from, like his origin story to a degree. But the biggest thing is we missed an opportunity that Thing gets kidnapped and it gets simulated into the body as him. And one of the reasons why Wednesday is able to beat him is because Thing starts fighting back with his hand. It's like, oh no, I need this body part, but this body part is loyal to Wednesday and the Addams family.
Yeah.
Like we missed the opportunity for like some cool storytelling or action in that way.
Actually, there is a little thing that I forgot about that I kind of remember now. How she gets like resurrected. I thought that was cheesy.
Oh,
I was just like the
whole
act of
soul
God
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like an act of God.
It felt
was
unneeded.
Deus Machina.
Honestly, my brain kind of like zoned out at that point, and I'm just like, wait, so she's just fine? Like the soul just repaired her? Whatever.
Yeah.
We don't have time about this. The world's come to the end, and this old
The pilgrim.
this
guy.
old pilgrim somehow has magic powers now, and so it's like let's just move past that and go on. Like my brain was like it entered Slock mode at that point. I'm like, it's just nothing but action Slock now. It's not going to be some like her using her brain to get out of something. It's going to be just her like fighting. And it was like that's all it was.
That and there was a part in the show where like it made me think of you instantly when I was
What did it
watching the
do?
show before we even talked about Wednesday.
Okay.
And that was the scene where Tyler, I think that's his name, the guy from the cafe,
Yeah,
takes her out on a date to the crypt. And they start playing a movie, and the song that comes on is Perfect Day. And I thought of you actually, because I remember this song being on a demo CD when we were kids, and it was that song and Kids of America. I don't know if you remember, We're the Kids from America.
Oh, I know exactly
Whoa.
what song you're talking about. I
Yeah.
just don't remember.
Yeah, that song,
song.
Perfect Day, was the first song that was on that track list.
Yeah.
And then number 2 was that song. It was like from like I think it was like from a cereal box we got that CD or that demo from.
No. So here's the
No?
thing. You may be mixing two things up. Cause the whole Kids of America is actually from the Digimon movie. That's where I first heard it because it was the one rendition of Kids of America. I think you're thinking of Simon and Milo. We had this small little 3-song or 4-song play track, and they had 2 songs of Simon and Milo, one called Get a Clue, and then It's Not Me, It's You, and then 2 other songs from people I do not know and never cared for. And I would only listen to those 2 songs of Simon and Milo because I liked how they sound. So that song could very well be on the Simon and Milo.
Yeah, I think it is
soundtrack.
Actually.
Because when you started saying that, my brain's just like, I don't know what the heck he's talking about. And then as you said demo tape, I'm like, the only demo thing I remember is that CD of Simon and Milo.
Yeah. So, yeah, I started thinking about you like that, but I actually laughed pretty hard when I started hearing that song. I was like, he's torturing her by making her watch this. That's like a thing that she's into. And then she was like, thank you for putting me through that torture. And then I saw it was Legally Blonde, of course, and that was funny.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's be honest, it is kind
Reese
of torture,
Witherspoon,
depending
terrible.
on who you are. Yeah. So on and so forth. Like, okay, the different characters are great. One character I do want to talk about is Enid, and the Wolf Out girl. What'd you think of her?
So I like her character, I really do. But once I found out that she has not transitioned to a werewolf, I knew instantly what was going to happen.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
She's going to fight that Hyde.
Yeah.
Like, she's going to transform and she's going to save the day. That was predictable. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the transformation. I enjoyed the graphics and the sound of like the transformation is what I love about werewolf. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but like, I love werewolves movies. Like, I love werewolf films. And one of the best transitions of a werewolf from a human is practical. It's practical effects I've seen. And that is Werewolf in London has like the best ever transition to a human to a werewolf. Okay. And when this happened, I was like, okay, this is good. Like, they did a really well job. In my opinion, I think they did a good job with transitioning her as a human to a werewolf when she was transforming. I thought that was really cool. And I did like the hair that stayed. I thought that was pretty sweet. Like, she's this punk rock werewolf.
I chuckled when that happened because whenever she was like transforming, I'll be honest, I was actually sad she transformed. I didn't want her to because that was a like defining thing about her is like, I may become a lone wolf, and I didn't like her mom was very like judgmental and harshful to her, but her dad was like full on supportive. He just was, you know, very much the side guy. Like, he's like, your mom's kind of the leader of our pack, and he's like, just be you, I love you regardless. And I was like, that's great. Like, that's a great story for someone who's like, if you don't fit in, it's okay. And when she started transforming, I'm just like, well, that's too bad, because I felt like they're going to ruin the whole story of Enid possibly being like an outcast, especially since her and the one Medusa or Gorgon person was falling in love with each other.
That took me I had this brain fart when they talked about, he's like, yeah, you probably stone yourself, or I've been stoned many times. I did not put that together.
Didn't put that? Yeah, I didn't either.
I didn't put that together until like I started thinking about it, because I was like, wait a minute, are these like druggies? Like, these kids get high totally or something? They get powers? Then like I see the bandana that, or like the band, was it like the thing that he wears?
Yeah, the beanie.
And then I was like, and then I started thinking, like, I didn't put it together, and like for a couple more episodes, it's like, is that kid like suffering from cancer or something? And then like, bam, it hit me, and I was like, he's got snakes on his head. He's Medusa looking
I honestly
thing,
did not realize it until the scene where he's getting out of the shower and then there's snakes, and I was like, oh, so he's a Gorgon. Okay. Oh, that makes sense on what they said earlier. I totally thought he was just a stoner because of how he was kind of like dazed when he was talking, and that was definitely the joke they were making. Like, he's kind of dazed because he stuns himself so much.
Yeah.
And that's funny to me. It's hilarious. And so it actually made that point in the story. I was like, okay, that was good. That was a good joke earlier that I enjoy now more because I didn't realize. And that's the worst part, right? When I was watching it, I don't know if I wasn't paying attention or they didn't like spell it out straight out that he was a like Gorgon Medusa. They probably did, but my brain didn't process it because I didn't process all the different people. I didn't want to like process all the people that there was, you know, just different characters or different like like I don't know, like creatures or whatever here. That wasn't really something that my brain was thinking of at that time. I just thought, you know, it's just weird people here. Oh no, they're straight up like mythical creatures here. But yeah. Was it I enjoyed Enid's character. I thought her and Wednesday's kind of like two-person kind of deal thing where they're like, oh, I'm dark, she's really like happy-go-lucky. I enjoyed that it's kind of like a cliche that tends to happen whenever you have a character that's very dour. You get someone who's very like open, but I'm just like whatever. I'm perfectly fine with it, and she grew on me. At first I didn't like her, and then she grew on me, and then I ended up liking her a lot. I think what made me like her character was the river episode where it's going downhill with their canoeing. That made me like her a little more.
No, like there's some really good parts of the show that I really enjoyed. I feel like it's like introducing this new thing that's going to be like it's going to be a bigger thing. Like I think season 2, like they've already talked about season 2 is probably going to get renewed. So many people liked it. So many people like the show right now. And this is like the first time that like Tim Burton's done something in a while that's like kind of an upswing, like that's like brought him back to the forefront, because like Tim Burton's kind of not really done too much, except for this. He brought this back, but one of the biggest things that I wanted to like talk about on this was the music score on a lot of the songs were actually songs that we already know. It's just their rendition into different instruments. The whole one where they go to, Nevermore comes to Jericho, and they do like that little band thing, and then Wednesday blows up the statue.
Oh yeah.
The song that she's playing is Painted Black by Rolling Stones, but it's in a cello version. And then they actually did Apocalypto, which is one of my favorite like weird bands. But Apocalypto is a band that is a heavy metal band that does heavy metal covers with cellos. Like a bunch of them are with cellos. And they did a Metallica song, Nothing Else Matters, in that show, and it was Apocalypto that they had doing that cover, which was great. I thoroughly enjoyed all the music and everything that Danny Elfman did for this, like composing wise, because he's always spot on next to Hans Zimmerman. Those two guys are like one of the best composers of that I think of all time. But what did you think about the power thing? Like her having visions? Like did you like that, or like did you not like that?
I don't know. I'll be honest. When it first was introduced, my brain went like 30%. I don't know about this. Most of it was okay. Anytime you have a detective-like show, if the detective-like show is based upon this concept that the person has powers to help like deduce or figure stuff out, it tends to make me not like the character as much, because they're freaking, it's not their detective prowess that's letting them get through stuff. It's her seeing these visions that allows her to work out and figure out stuff.
Yeah.
And so that kind of made me, I'm like, of my whole thought process, I'm like 39% of the time I don't like it or more. This show, I would have liked it better if she deduced everything without the need of some psychic power.
Mhm.
And instead just like parse things out on her own, because like the power becomes kind of Deus Ex Machina in certain things, like her at the end touching Tyler and finding out that he's the Jackal, and it's like, thanks Deus Ex Machina, sure wish you would have got that through all the other times that she had interactions with him. I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy the show. I don't know if you've ever watched it, Psych, so much, is because the show is all about this person who his dad taught him to become like a great detective, see, feel, understand everything, like put things together quickly. And he did it so many times in helping the police, but the police didn't know it, that they started thinking he was like a psycho mass murderer type deal thing. And in order to get them from not arresting him and charging him for all these crimes, he says, I'm psychic, right? No one can prove that I'm not psychic. I am a psychic. And so they started hiring him to come to cases, and all he's doing is just looking around, analyzing stuff, and then faking him having powers. And I love that. Like, I love that whole concept, because it removes the whole thought process of, oh, it's mystical, why they're this good. Why in this show it kind of, I feel like it dulls Wednesday because she needed that power to do anything. Now granted, with that power, it allows her to do more things than just the normal detective slew. It allows her to like solve cold cases, communicate with different things. I guess it allows her to communicate with the dead too, is what it's showing. So there's different things they could do with it. I'm not too bent out of shape, especially since we are in this kind of mystical world where there's werewolves, gorgons, and sirens. So I just kind of went, okay, that's just what the show is, and moved on. I just wish that if this was a canon thing for Wednesday to have, I wish it would have been more prevalent before this.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah, that's
I
just my
do
thought.
feel like sometimes like there's a lot of like Deus Ex Machina stuff that gave her clues and stuff like that. And like, you know, I even talked about like with her dying and like the girl's like, I'm gonna heal you. I was like, oh man, come on. Like kind of deal. So like, I don't know. I enjoyed the show. I did, but I didn't take it in like as like a very serious show that I was like, well, the difference is like my expectation going into this compared to like how a lot of shows are that I love, like Marvel shows and stuff like that. I tend to just be a little bit more lighthearted with this with Netflix, and I'm terrible at that, like with, you know, shows like that, because I'm very biased against things. I'm like, oh, this has to be perfect, but this doesn't have to be. And Wednesday is in that category of like, it didn't have to be perfect, but I thoroughly enjoyed it though. Like, it's kind of like how Cowboy Bebop was. Like, Cowboy Bebop live action show, I enjoyed, but I didn't go into too much and being like, this is the best show ever. And that's how I feel with Wednesday. And most Netflix shows is like, some shows I just don't, you know, I don't really think they're great shows, but I'll watch them because I enjoyed them. And that's what I felt with Wednesday, is I enjoyed the show. There was a lot of aspects of the show that I really thoroughly cared about and loved some of the storylines, especially with Thing, and the whole background story between Gomez and Morticia, with their whole like, you know, about the murder thing. Because like, you know, I knew it was going to be brought up sooner or later. Like, that had to be solved because it was brought up. But the thing was I enjoyed, and I enjoyed the nod that they did where they made him look like the Gomez from the movie.
Yeah. The thing that was so great about it is that while he was younger, he looked like the one Gomez. And when he got older, he looked like the other one. I'm like, that's a great midway comparison for people, because I know a lot of people were all butthurt about how he looked. And it's like, those people have only known those 90s versions of the Adam family. They never seen the original ones. I could care, like, I didn't care what anything. Like, all I knew about Wednesday is that she was a super serious, anticlimactic girl, and it's like, yeah, that's all I know about her. I'm not going to compare her to anything that came before her. That just leads you to disappointment, because in specifically in everything in our world and society, especially in the US, the new thing has to be different enough that people like, but similar enough to the old things that they're able to not just get bent out of shape. And that is something that I'm like, I thought it did good. I thought every character kind of did good in that approach. When it came to that whole issue, my only issue I had with Annie of the Family was actually with Morticia, personally. And I just felt like she was very much, she was a loving, like, mom, like how she is in all the other times I've seen her. But she also felt like, I don't know, a little more different. Like, I don't know, I can't even say what it is, but she just felt different to me. Just something felt off. She didn't seem to enjoy the whole darker aspects of life than anything before, but whatever. I just don't know all that stuff. There is one thing I want to say quickly, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk real quickly about the character of Bianca, the siren girl.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you know how they say, like, sirens are meant to be, like, mesmerizing, how they look and everything, and, like, draw, like, men to be crashed into the water. Like, whatever lenses that they had her wear, it was kind of like, I actually felt weirdly like she felt the most supernatural of everything on that show. Just how she, like, her manner with those eyes and how she spoke and everything. I was like, whoa. It's legitimately like she pulls off the whole siren thing. Like, her other, like, siren people didn't feel that same way. She had, like, the energy, the poise, the attitude, and I was like, more like this, man. This is great. Like, solid acting on that. And then it's the same thing with, like, Gwendolyn Christie, with her being the headmaster. I actually got really sad when she died. I was like, dang, I thought she was a great headmaster, because she came off as stern but hard, but she truly did care about stuff. She did some shady things, that's for sure, but it was all for the betterment of the school, and I liked her as a headmaster. And it made me sad whenever she died, because I was like, I would have liked to see her in more seasons, but I wonder if they'll get Morticia or Gomez to be the new headmaster, and that will be the whole joke. And I could see that being a thing. All right, Austin, is there anything else you want to talk about when it comes to Wednesday?
No, I think that we hit pretty much, what we wanted to on it. I think that if someone's looking for just a show to watch, I think Wednesday is perfect for anyone. There is violence in it. I will say that, and it gets weird sometimes, but overall, I enjoyed this show.
Yeah, but it's not like over the top gore violence and everything. Like, even the one scene with all the blood coming from the sprinklers, they make a point of being like, they couldn't even spring for real pig's blood. It's just paint. It's very like,
which was kind of like what was it, like a callback to Carrie.
Yo, it wasn't even a callback. It was meant to be a reference. That's why she was so excited that it was happening, only for her to find out not pig's blood, because that's what they used in it. The only thing I will say that this kind of feels like this is a plot hole that maybe I'll have to go back and rewatch to figure out it. Knowing now that Tyler was the jackal, and Tyler and the other person wanted to kill all the other people or whatnot. I don't understand why Tyler killed Rowan, because Rowan was going to kill Wednesday, and then the jackal came and murdered Rowan and then ran off. And I'm like, by that point, didn't they know about the whole book and all that stuff? Or maybe not. They didn't. But at the same time, like, why would you not let her get killed? Maybe at that point, she wasn't seen as a threat, and he hasn't been told to like kill her or them to get rid of her. I don't know. But that's something that I would have to rewatch because it didn't make sense, man. Like, why they ever saved her? Why did he even want to save her? Or was it just I got Hulk out and he's the first person I saw, but I'll just kill her and not the other one? That's the thing. Like, we're led to believe that he didn't love her, and he was loyal to her the whole time, and the only reason why he was doing all that stuff was for the other. I don't know. That's why I'll have to rewatch it, because that is something that doesn't make sense in my head that I would have to redo.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Austin. I think that basically covers our thought process on Wednesday. That was my last wait, what moment right there, and
Whoa,
that's fine. What? Wait.
There's more.
Austin, next week we're gonna watch a show that I personally really like. I like it a lot. I will say one preference before anyone watches the show is thank you, Molly, for getting in the way of the camera. There is a trailer. So next week we're gonna watch Being Pupcat. It came out on Netflix. There's the Netflix show of it. And the first couple episodes of it are going to be like a recap of the series that they did prior. Because Being Pupcat have been in this limbo state for a while. I really like Being Pupcat. I'm enjoyable. People who have listened to the podcast or know me personally knows that I like animated series of multiple sorts. And Being Puppycat was originally a YouTube show that they did 2 episodes for as pilots. Then they got a deal with Verve, or I think it was just called Verve. And then they made, I think it was like 5 or 6 episodes originally to make a whole season. And then that got stopped because Verve was kind of like failing, to be honest. And then they got kickstarted, and then they got put on Netflix. And so I was like, I'm just happy because I really like the show. And so what I'm going to say is, when we go watch it, I would recommend y'all to look up Being Puppycat on YouTube to find the 2 original trailer show episodes, because those are the 2 shows when they did it that made me fall in love with it. And you'll see that it kind of gets retold in the Netflix show for the first like episode or 2, but they give a little more context and you can go from there and enjoy it. Thank you, Molly. I love you so much. But yeah, that's what we're gonna watch next week is Being Pupcat. It's just single season, relatively short. I think it will be a nice little cut, and then we'll have another show we'll be watching, which will be Austin's turn, because oddly enough, we got flooded with a bunch of shows during October and November, and then we were going to do Andor, whatever it was.
Andor. Yeah.
But it's being released on NBC, CBS.
ABC right now.
ABC, yeah.
Because it was the first ever like Disney show from Disney Plus that they decided to do ABC. So it's going to be done. It's already done on Disney Plus, but a lot of more people will see it. Will be watching it for this month because it's on ABC.
So we're going to give a go there so people can see it and then come to it. So yeah, Austin, that's basically it. I'll see you next week when we do Being Puppycat. Austin, as always, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. And thank you all so much for stopping by. And thank you all so much for tuning in. Say bye, Molly.